there, getting to know you. Well, today we're getting to know somebody that I think a lot of people already know, and that's Lois Laverty. And we're here in her apartment to talk about what happened to her recently. And I was walking in the halls and happened to see her door open or have her step out with this marvelous bouquet of flowers. And so I said to Lois, aren't they beautiful? And Lois said, yes, I was just honored, and they gave me this bouquet of flowers. So I thought that was a perfect opening for saying, well, let's get to know you a little bit better, Lois, and why did you get these flowers? So many people know that you love music, you can perform, and but let's start your story about how you got started in music, and then we'll end up with the big honor that you got. Okay, so how did you start off in loving music?
Well, I started off, I believe, at my birth. I'm one of 6 children, and in the middle of those 6, and both my father and my mother came from musical families, so I was always surrounded by music. So I started studying music at a very early age. I mean, the piano was in the house, and
You took lessons?
learned, the lessons were just in the family.
I see.
And also we all played the violin, so there was the piano and the violin, and I had an older brother who played the violin and viola very well and was winning prizes, and actually that's how I heard about Westminster Choir College, because my older brother got a scholarship to go to Westminster because he'd won prizes in violin and viola in Pennsylvania State. I grew up in Harrisburg.
Yeah. So between that time of when you started playing at home and so on, did you get some lessons later on that you might have been thinking about going to college for music, or what were you doing in that period of growing up?
Well, I was always in love with music. We all were playing at the piano, but it was a very poor family, so there really was not money for outside lessons, but my father would sort of teach us and show us, and the older brother did get paid lessons because he was especially talented. And then we all just came along and sort of learned as we could. Finally, I paid for my own violin lessons when I got into high school. Yeah.
And did you ever switch to singing? Aren't you known as a singer?
Well, I was always known as a singer. Of course, I sang in all the children's choirs, and I always got solos. They did discover early on that I did have a good voice. I had a 4th grade music teacher in grade school that really had me singing all the time. She would teach me all kinds of solos. So as far as I know, I was always in love with singing. I don't remember not just loving it and thinking that was the greatest thing in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, did you have to make a choice in terms of what you would concentrate on when you, I guess you went to Westminster Choir College then, following in your brother's footsteps?
Right. And way back in those days, Westminster Choir College was just a church music school, and my family was a very religious Protestant family and a very musical family, and so Westminster just fit there.
Yeah.
It's a church music school, so that's what we were, church and music. So my older brother went there and spent his whole life as a church musician, and then I went there, but I was always in love with the singing, and they always gave me the solos even in college, you know, because I did have some natural talent.
Yeah.
And then I went back and got a master's degree, and then I taught voice at Michigan State University.
Oh, you took a little break.
Well, that was my first sort of
Your job.
full-time job. And it was then that I applied for a Fulbright scholarship to study voice in Vienna.
Wow.
And I got it, so I went to Vienna.
Oh, so tell us a little bit about that. What did you do there?
Well, in Vienna, I started studying voice, and I'd never sung on the stage. And I started also at the Vienna Academy of Music, studying in the opera department there. So after I'd been there a couple years, even though the Fulbright only lasted 1 year, I had saved money and I was living on a shoestring and earning little bits of teaching English to high school children or something,
Yeah.
and doing the best I could. And then there was a Vienna, now I can't remember the name of it, a little opera company, and I got hired there to sing as their leading soprano for a year, so that started it. Oh, and I entered international singing contests in order to earn money, and I was lucky to earn prizes in the three
good.
contests, and that helped me stay there. And
Terrific. And now, did you have to learn languages there? Obviously,
oh,
you
of
learned
course.
German.
I learned German, and I already knew how to pronounce the other languages that we mostly sing in. I never got to sing in Russian, and I never learned how to pronounce Russian, but German and French and Italian and Latin and English, those were and some Spanish pronunciation was easy to pick up if you knew those other languages.
Well, if you have an ear for music, you also often have an ear for language.
Yeah, and I had that, and I did, in those days, I was told after I'd been there a year or so that I was speaking English like a native, but I was told I was speaking English with a Viennese accent, so that's where I learned
it. Rubbed off a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I did. Then later on, I got a position to sing in the opera that was in a little city in Germany, or a medium-sized city, Koblenz, which is a lovely city on the Rhine.
Right.
And I sang there. Yeah.
Wonderful. But then you did come back to this country, and somehow Westminster Choir College got you back. How did that happen?
Well, I'll tell you, I ran into a little bit of trouble. I had a contract to sing in a new little opera company that was beginning in Berlin, and I was so looking forward to seeing Berlin, that famous city. And about a month before I was supposed to go there, I got a letter saying, well, we've gone bankrupt and we can't do it after all. So there I sat with no job, and after a while, I wrote a letter to the two schools that I had been connected with, Westminster Choir College, where I had gone to college for 2 degrees, and Michigan State University, and telling each of them in the letter, I'm thinking of coming back and teaching, and would there be a position? And it was such a contrast to trying to get singing positions.
Yeah,
by return mail, I got an invitation from each school to teach. So I had to choose between my beloved Westminster, where not only I attended, but an older brother and a younger sister had degrees from there, and that paid very low salaries, and Michigan State University, where I taught, and that paid nice, good salaries. So, of course, I chose the one with the smaller salary and returned to my beloved Westminster and taught there until it was time to retire. And I became an expert in teaching singer's diction, all those different languages that I mentioned.
And enjoyed the music, too.
Oh, of course.
And given the award that you got, it sounds like you had students who really enjoyed having you as a teacher.
Well, we all enjoyed each other, and that, if you want to know what that was all about, there was a special alumni meeting. That's what it was.
Right.
There had been an alumni meeting, and featured in the alumni meeting was a certain composition written by a member of the faculty, who has been deceased for many years. His name was Warren Martin, and he was a very, very talented musician and composer. He had written a comic masterpiece when I was a graduate student.
Well, that goes back a ways.
Yeah, and it was entitled The True Story of Cinderella. There's a score sitting on the piano there. And he wrote it when I was a graduate student, and he made solo parts for 12 different characters that he made up in the Cinderella story. And all the characters, way back in 1955, were that first performance. All those solo parts were sung by members of my graduate class, and I sang one of them, and it included dialogue, or now I can't think of the word when you have when you read the words to the story.
I think it's in German. It's Sprechstimme. But
No, just
regular.
Not dialogue.
Okay, well, I think we get
Yeah,
it. You just
yeah.
talk.
Yeah, you explain, and then people sing. And that's what took place when you saw me with the flowers. We had
A
an
revival.
alumni performance of that, and I had done the narration and was coming home from that, and that's what that was all about.
Well,
Right.
there was something about your birthday too, wasn't there?
Oh, yeah. We were celebrating, that's right. It was at my church, which is All Saints Church in Princeton, because the organist choir director there is a Westminster graduate, and he had the alumni meeting at the church, and it was celebrating my 90th birthday, except my 90th birthday was back in 2020, but we couldn't meet then. So I'm really 92, but we were celebrating my 90th birthday, and I narrated the true story of Cinderella, and that's what that was all about.
Well, that's just great. They were celebrating you as a performer and for your birthday, and gave you wonderful flowers.
They certainly did,
Well,
yeah.
That's really very exciting. You should be really pleased to keep those kinds of connections. And did you know in advance that they were redoing, well in advance that they were rehearsing the old Cinderella
Well, yeah, because they had to ask me to participate. I did know. And, they would have meant to do it in 2020, but they put it off all that time.
Right.
And there we were.
So.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really great story, and I'm glad that it's nice to be remembered, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like the Lois we know here, because we're so grateful when you do the introduction or the translations and so on at our Saturday night program. So we sort of keep you in practice, right?
Right, absolutely.
And your piano's right here, so I guess
There
you
it
can
is.
always go and practice.
Yes.
Well, Lois, thank you so much for letting us get to know you even a little bit more than we already do. And congratulations, soon will be your 93rd birthday.
92nd.
It's coming up.
Oh, the 90th. Well, not until next year, May 9th.
All right. Well, we'll try.
May 9th.
Yeah. We should redo the play here.
Yeah, well, we'd have to get 12 singers to come out here. It's not as easy as it was before COVID. I have had Westminster singers here, but to get 12 who could
I
come
guess
out,
that would be
and they were alumni who'd come from various areas.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that'd be hard to
we're
do
glad
again.
we heard the story about
Good.
it. So, thank you
Good.
so much for letting us visit with you. Jock brought his camera in right here into your apartment, and saw your piano in the background and heard your wonderful story.
Well,
thank you so much.
You.